Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cisco Optics Podcast, where we talk about pluggable optics for networks. Multi-mode fiber has been the workhorse for fiber optic communication within a data center for years, as well as a choice for Ethernet backbones in office buildings. It has a rich history that goes all the way back to the first optical fiber standards when 100 megabits per second was a huge data rate. Anybody remember those days? This is episode 57, and we continue our conversation with Hao Dong, Market Technology Development Manager for Corning's optical communications business. We get into the reach of future high-speed standards for multimode fiber. Hao Dong is a Market Technology Development Manager for Corning's optical communications business. Within this role, he focuses on technology and market trends to identify, evaluate, and develop leading optical network solutions that form the backbone of today's connected world. Hao has over 18 years of industry experience and has held various positions in engineering, development, and marketing within the fields of optical components, fiber lasers, and optical communications. Hao holds a Bachelor of Science in Physics from Wuhan University and a PhD in Physics from the University of Connecticut. One quick note before we start. You'll hear Hao mention a 100-meter reach fiber that they're working on. Since we recorded this, Corning has launched that fiber. It's their ClearCurve OM3XT and OM4XT multimode fiber. And now join me as I talk with Hao Dong.
But the problem is that for this newly defined IEEE standards, the OM3 is no longer supporting 70 meter. It only supports the distance up to 60 meter. But again, for OM4, it's still support 100 meter.
Do you know why it's 60 and not 70? Was there a debate about that?
Mm-hmm. So basically, if you look at the if you go back to the basics, right? What is really limiting the distance? What is really limiting the transmission capability? Mm-hmm. So I think there is a way to define it, which is the link bandwidth. So if you follow the link bandwidth approach and do some calculation, you will see the OM3 fiber EMB will not be able to support 70 meter. So you have to take the compromise, and that's a fundamental reason for this 60 meter versus 7 meter discussion, right? In other words, the fiber bandwidth, the fiber EMB is not higher enough to support a 70 meter at this case.
So after all the analysis, I'm sure people would have wanted it to support 70 if possible, so that there can be a consistent spec from generation to generation. But you're saying after all the analysis, it was concluded it's just not feasible.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a big problem for the 100G per LAN. So almost for the first time, right, the fiber bandwidth becomes a bottleneck. As we said again, 70 meter OM3 and 100 meter OM4, that's a golden rule, but it seems like it has to be bridged in this case. And it's not only for we talk about the 100G per LAN being treated as a future-proofing solution, right? Mm-hmm. So there are another effort ongoing as well, which is BiDi. So there is a 100G per LAN based BiDi MSA, which is called the terabit BiDi. Mm-hmm. Terabit BiDi defines the transmission ridge spec as it's even shorter. So for OM3, it only supports 45 meter, and the OM4 only supports 70 meters. So from
and that's also 100 gig per lane.
That's also 100G per LAN. Yeah, that's also 100 gigabit per LAN for, but the difference is BiDi. So yeah, so that's a problem we see, and from the fiber standpoint, obviously the question is how do we address the issue, right? So currently, we are working on the new fiber, trying to hopefully we can address this issue and deliver a longer distance than just generic OM3 and OM4.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to bring up? Any current work that you've been doing? Anything you've been thinking about a lot lately?
um, yeah, you mentioned the application for multimode,
Mm-hmm.
right? So obviously, I think the big topic that people are thinking um, will be where the multimode fiber will be used,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think obviously data center is a good application space,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially in North America, I think the enterprise data center, these guys are still they love multimode, right?
Right.
There are
Yep.
still a lot of multimode being deployed for data center
Yep.
applications, and also in another application case or application space for multimode will be China clouds. So I think
Hmm.
if you compare the China clouds company versus the hyperscale in North America, you will see the difference in terms of footprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in North America, the hyperscale DC typically really spread out the campus over a size or footprint of the stadium, right? It's huge. But the
Yeah. And
China clouds,
okay, go ahead.
yeah, typically China clouds, those data center located in the multi-story buildings. So in terms of the
Oh, okay.
footprint is smaller. So that's why they still think 100 meter is good enough to finish their say leaf to spine interconnections,
That's
and
interesting. I
multimodal will
never
be
knew
a
about that.
good fit. Yeah, we heard a lot about that especially when it comes to the single mode versus the multimodal discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's widely believed that big clouds in China will deploy a large volume of 200G, 400G multimode
Mm-hmm.
solution in the next couple of years. So, yeah.
Do you know if they have
Um,
a preference for OM3, OM4, maybe
well,
some special fiber?
OM3, yeah, OM3 will be the dominant fiber option for that
Really?
uh, for most of the applications for China clouds. Yes,
Because
they have a strong preference.
even at one of these two new standards, either the IEEE or the terabit, for the
Um,
single lane 100 gig.
Well, for the status quo, I think they prefer the OM3 because of the cost consideration.
Mm-hmm.
The fiber cost on OM3 is obviously it's cheaper than OM4, right?
Right.
But when it comes to the future proofing solution, say 100G per LAN, so I think a lot of things is still to be determined. But yeah, definitely there will be the reach, the distance will be a consideration.
Yeah. So I guess the
Um,
question is, can they, let's say they go with the IEEE, can they accommodate 60 meters instead of 70, right? Is that going
that's
to
right.
is that
That's
going
right.
to be a problem?
That could be a problem. So that's a
Yeah.
problem we are considering as well. So that's why, like I said, we're working on the new 100G per LAN based fiber, trying to address the reach issues in 100G per LAN based application, including the BiDi, namely the terabit BiDi,
Mm-hmm.
and also 100G IEEE AO2.3 TB defined transceivers. So with the newer fiber EMB specification, the
Mm-hmm.
higher EMB specification, especially um, um, the EMB uh, EMB values at the 910 nanometer, it
Mm-hmm.
will address the reach issue for terabit BiDi
Mm.
application.
Okay. Well, sounds exciting.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the other application, I think a big application for multimode
Mm-hmm.
potentially could be the AI machine learning applications, right? So these days people talk a lot about the fiber to the machine, fiber to the server, and etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another application space with a lot of potentials.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So basically
yeah.
replacing what's
So
currently like top of rack switch to server connectivity, which is basically copper cables still. That was the 6th part of my conversation with Hao Dong. Next time, we'll continue with the reach of high-speed standards for multimode fiber and the impact on data center deployments. We have a new website. It's optics.podcastpage.io. You can either listen there or use the same podcast platform you've been using all along. Please subscribe. Better yet, leave a review, especially if you've been using Apple Podcast. Remember, we're part of the Cisco Podcast Network, where you can find other great Cisco podcasts too. We also have educational videos on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com and search on Cisco Optics. Thank you for listening. This is Pat Chow, Product Manager at Cisco Optics. The next episode is the 7th and final part of my conversation with Hao Dong. Until next time.